Acharya. Möchtest du es in Deutsch oder in Englisch?
Beide.
Beide? In Deutsch und in Englisch möchtest du lesen?
Ja.
Okay, geht's noch. Russisch habe ich nicht. Russisch habe ich nicht. Aber du sprichst ja beides. Alle drei Sprachen. Yes, Hare Krishna, Chaitanya Charitamrita. We reading from C.C. Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 130 and 31.
33.
Huh?
33.
33?
Oh, 31.
31, yeah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Kora More Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Kora More Toma Pina Ke Dayalu Jagata Samsare Toma vina ke dayalu jagata samsare Patita pavana hetu Tava avatara Patita pavana hetu Tava avatara Samapatita Prabhu Napaibe Ara Samapatita Prabhu Napaibe Ara Aha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Aha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa Balo Kana Koro Ami Borotu Kana Koro Ami Borotu Daya Kuru Sitapati Advaita Gosai Daya Kuru Sitapati Advaita Gosai Tava Kripa Palepai Chaitanya Nita Tava Kripa Palepai Chaitanya Nita Paragunata Bhaktayuga Shri Chiva Prabhu Lokanata Bhaktayuga Shri Chiva Prabhu Lokanata Doya Kuru Shri Acharya Prabhu Srinivasa Daya Kuru Sri Acharya Prabhu Srinivasa Ramachandra Sanga Maghe Narottama Dasa Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jaya Gaura Hari, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda,
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
So we're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 130 and text 131. We are hearing the description of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching to Sanatana Goswami, and in this chapter Abhideya is described, the process of how to attain the goal. Devotional service bhakti is described, and especially here the 64 different forms of devotional service are described, and now here is an emphasis on the 5 most potent processes, 5 most powerful process of devotional service. And today we will hear about deity worship, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and associating with devotees. So we start with text 130. It's very short. It's Shraddha Visheshta Prittihi Shrimurtir Angri Sevane. Translation: with love and full faith, one should worship the lotus feet of the deity. And Prabhupada comments, this verse and the following two verses are found in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1 to 90 to 92. And then we have the text that is here on the board. Srimad Bhagavatartanam Ashvado Rasikaisaha Sajatiyasya ye snikte Sajatiyasya ye snikte Sadhu Sanga Svatovare Sadhu Sanga Svatovare Srimad Bhagavatartanam Ashvado Rasikaisaha Sajati Yashai Snikte Sadhu Sanga Svatovare Srimad Bhagavatartanam Ashvado Rasikaisaha Sajati Yashai Snikte Sadhu Sanga Svatovare Srimad Bhagavatartanam Ashvato Rasikaisaha Sajatiyasai Snikte Sadhu Sanga Svatovare Srimad Bhagavatartanam Ashvado Rasikaisaha Sajatiyasai Snikte Sadhu Sanga Svatovare Vaishnavis Srimad Bhagavatartanam Ashvado Rasikaisaha Sajatiyasai Snikte Sadhu Sanga Svatovare
Srimad Bhagavatartanam
Ashvado Rasikaisaha Sajatiyasai Snikte Sadhu Sanga Svatovare
Srimad Bhagavatartanam Ashvado Rasikaisaha Sajatiyasai Snikte Sadhu Sanga Svatovare
Srimad Bhagavatam of the Srimad Bhagavatam Artanam of the meanings.
Ashvadaha,
Enjoying the taste. Rasikaisaha, with the devotees. Sajatiya, similar. Ashaye, endowed with a desire. Snigdhe, advanced in devotional affection. Sadhu, with a devotee. Sanga, association. Svataha, for oneself. Vari, better. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. One should taste the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of pure devotees, and one should associate with the devotees who are more advanced than oneself and who are endowed with a similar type of affection for the Lord. Translation. The words Sajati Yashaye Snikte Sadhu Sanga Satovare are very important. One should not associate with professional Bhagavatam reciters. A professional Bhagavatam reciter is one who is not in the disciplic succession or one who has no taste for Bhakti Yoga. Simply on the strength of grammatical knowledge and word jugglery, professional reciters maintain their bodies and their desires for sense gratification by reading Srimad Bhagavatam. One should also avoid those who are averse to Lord Vishnu and his devotees, those who are Mayavadis, those who offend the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, those who simply dress as Vaishnavas or so-called Goswamis, and those who make a business by selling Vedic mantras and reciting Srimad Bhagavatam to maintain their families. One should not try to understand Srimad Bhagavatam from such materialistic people. According to the Vedic injunction, Yasya Dive Para Bhakti, the Srimad Bhagavatam can be recited only by one who has unflinching faith in the lotus feet of Krishna and his devotee, the spiritual master. One should try to understand Srimad Bhagavatam from the spiritual master. The Vedic injunction states, Bhaktya Bhagavatam Grahayam Na Buddhaye Na Cha Tikkaya. One has to understand Srimad Bhagavatam through the process of devotional service and by hearing the recitation of a pure devotee. These are the injunction of the Vedic literature, Shruti and Smriti. Those who are not in a disciplic succession and who are not pure devotees cannot understand the real, mysterious objective of Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Amagyanatimidandasya Ginanjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namo Pistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I read again the two verses. 130. With love and full faith, one should worship the lotus feet of the deity. One should taste, and 131. One should taste the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of pure devotees, and one should associate with the devotees who are more advanced than oneself, and who are endowed with a similar type of affection for the Lord. And of course, the other two are, one should congregationally chant the holy name of the Lord and reside in Vrindavan. These are the five. So in the beginning of this description, let me see. the beginning of this description, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoted one shloka to define devotional service, and this is Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhavasa sadhana pidaha nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam hridi satyata. When transcendental devotional service, by which love for Krishna, bhava, is attained, is executed by the senses, it is called sadhana bhakti, or regulative discharge of devotional service. Such devotional eternally exists within the heart of every living entity. The awakening of this eternal devotion is the potentiality of devotional service in practice. So, this is a very important shloka, which we find also in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Spoken here by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, describing what actually is bhakti, or what is sadhana bhakti. Right? There's three things. There is sadhana, there is the sadhaka, and there is sadhya. There is sadhya is the ultimate goal, that which is to be achieved. Then there is the sadhaka. This is us. We are trying to practice devotional service, and sadhana is the practice itself. And the goal of that practice, is, as described here, is bhava. And bhava, of course, is the beginning stage of pure love of God. And it's interesting, in the Nectar of Devotion, therefore, we find a description of devotional service, and it's described as three kinds of devotional service. There is sadhana bhakti, there is bhava bhakti, and there is prema bhakti. So three kinds of bhakti. And one may question, well, why there is a third, or why there is this, a need of this stage of bhava? Because yes, there is sadhana bhakti, which is the practice, and there is prema bhakti, which is the perfection. So why is there a need of a step in between? Any suggestions? Any idea?
The level of our consciousness, maybe.
The level of our consciousness? Yes, yes, it's like a stage in between.
Because we need to develop emotions.
We need to develop emotion first.
Like some start of the emotions. And this bhava is emotion.
Yeah, bhava, as you understand, we have these 9 stages of devotional service, and bhava is the 8th stage. It's just after ruchi and ashakti, when we have developed taste and we have developed an attachment to Krishna, then actually these deep emotions will manifest as bhava. I will just read from, I don't know whether you know this book, Sankalpa Kaumudi. It's one of the latest book of His Holiness Shivaram Maharaj. And like Maharaj is an amazing writer, it's such a thick book. And that book actually just happened to, he was writing a different book, then he just had some reflection about sadhana, about determination in sadhana, and about the importance of focusing on the goal. And he made some notes. Maybe this is a topic for a separate book. And then he comes up with such a thick book just on that topic. It's like amazing. Basically, Maharaj makes the point that, if you want to visit a friend somewhere let's say here in Switzerland, let's say you go to Basel to see some friend, and you start your journey. In the beginning of the journey, it's good enough to know that you go to Basel, right? Either you go to the train to Basel, or you take the highway, you just go direction of Basel. So that's good enough. You don't need to know much more for the moment. But once you have reached Basel, you need to know the exact address, which street, which number, what is the name, which door, to attain the goal. So Maharaj says similarly, in the beginning of devotional service, to go back to Godhead, it's good enough. We know we want to go to Krishna. That's the direction we have to go. But the more further we progress, we need to know more details. And of course, more details means to understand, Krishna's, form, his qualities, his pastimes. and eventually also what is our role in these pastimes, what is our relationship with Krishna, what is our rasa, our svarup, eternally, our eternal role that we play in Krishna's pastimes. So, and Maharaj speaks about how sadhana is practiced and how determination is important and different aspects of practicing sadhana. Quite an amazing book. And so Maharaj, this is in the first chapter, he describes so that again, devotional service is that which it means that it's executed by the senses. The senses are engaged in serving Krishna, and by this practice, that original love is awakened in the heart, and this is called sadhana bhakti. We do sadhana, we practice, and we try to attain bhava, these, awakening these emotions. So then, bhava bhakti is defined as follows. When devotional service is executed on a transcendental platform of pure goodness, it is like a sun ray of love for Krishna. At such a time, devotional service causes the heart to be softened by various tastes, and one is then situated in bhava, emotion. And prema bhakti is defined as when that bhava softens the heart completely, becomes endowed with the great feeling of possessiveness in relation to the Lord, and becomes very much condensed and intensified, it is called prema, love of God, by learned scholars. So bhava is sometimes also called the seed of love for Krishna. And then when it becomes more intensified, then we speak of prema. So here it says, it's like a sun ray of love for Krishna. Like when the sun starts to rise, we already see some, it becomes, it's not dark anymore, it becomes a little more, light, bright, and you can see the first rays, but you don't see the sun yet. And it's not that the sun has fully arisen and everything is full sunshine and you can feel the strength of the sun and the heat. No, but it starts. So bhava is described as such. It's the beginning of prema. Other examples are given is that, like if you have a flower, it's just a bud and then it opens slowly. So bhava is like the beginning stage, and then prema is like when it fully blossoms. Or once Adipurush Prabhu, my Bhakti Shastri teacher, he gave another example. It's like if you have Lakshmi, again we're in Switzerland, so we have Swiss francs and we have Rappen. Rappen is that which is below 1 franc. So if you have 5 Rappen, and in Switzerland we have 1,000 Swiss franc notes. I think it's one of the few countries in the world that actually have 1,000 like such high notes. Like usually they have $100 and then you just add, but we have 1,000. It's amazing. So if you have 1,000 notes or you have 5 Rappen, it's quite a difference, isn't it? If someone gives you 5 Rappen, it's one thing, but if someone gives you 1,000 francs, it's like, wow, now I can do something. But at the end of the day, both it's Lakshmi. Both is Lakshmi. So similarly, bhava is like the very beginning. It's like 5 Rappen. and then prema is like 1,000 Swiss francs. It's money, but it's simply the beginning. It's the beginning stage. But you cannot say I don't have money. You have money, you have 5 Rappen. So, and therefore there is a stage in between. There is sadhana bhakti, there is bhava bhakti, and there is prema bhakti. Why? Because bhava bhakti, as described also in the shloka we read, this is already on a transcendental platform. It's not anymore influenced by the three gunas. It's on the platform of Shuddha Sattva. And because you have attained Shuddha Sattva, because you have actually attained transcendence, that's the goal of sadhana. You try to reach that stage. And from there it will naturally develop into prema. So now, why do we discuss this point? Because also in the Nectar of Devotion, or Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami, and then here Prabhupada in his summary study describes that there is 5 kinds of devotional service that actually they are so potent, they are so powerful that they can arouse a bhava even in a neophyte, which is quite amazing. Of course we understand it's not that the bhava fully manifests, but it's kind of a shadow or kind of a special mercy. But because these 5 are so potent, even a practitioner can get some glimpse, some idea. And so Prabhupada says here, Rupa Goswami has stated that 5 kinds of devotional activities, namely reciting in Mathura, worshipping the deity of the Lord, reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, serving a devotee and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, are so potent that a small attachment for any one of these 5 items can arouse devotional ecstasy even in a neophyte. So even a small attachment. So, okay, today we speak about 3 of them. That's the shlokas which were given to me. The first one is Shraddha Visheshata Priti Shri Murtir Angri Sevana. That with love and full faith one should worship the lotus feet of the deity. And Srila Prabhupada, or Rupa Goswami quotes in this regard, and Prabhupada explains. Regarding worship of the form of the Lord or deity, Rupa Goswami has written the following verse. My dear friend, if you still have any desire to enjoy the company of your friends within this material world, then don't look upon the form of Krishna, who is standing on the bank of the Keshi Ghat. He is known as Govinda, and his eyes are very enchanting. He is playing upon his flute, and on his head there is a peacock feather, and his whole body is illuminated by the moonlight in the sky. The purport of this verse is that if someone becomes attached to Sri Murti, or deity of Krishna, by worshipping at home, then he will forget his relationship of so-called friendship, love and society. Thus, it is the duty of every householder to install deities of the Lord at home and to begin the process of worshipping along with all of his family members. This will save everyone from such unwanted activities as going to clubs, cinemas and dancing parties, and smoking, drinking, etc. All such nonsense will be forgotten if one stresses the worship of the deities at home. So we can understand that's Prabhupada's commentary. Now the Nectar of Devotion is a summary study. Like in other books we have, there is the Sanskrit shloka, word by word, and then you have the translation, and then Prabhupada's commentary. But here in the Nectar of Devotion it's a summary study. That means the original shloka, the commentaries of previous acharyas, and Prabhupada's commentaries kind of merged or kind of putting together. It's a summary study. No? But we can see. I don't think that Rupa Goswami spoke about cinemas. But Prabhupada makes the point that basically the essence is if you start to worship a deity and if you become attracted to the deity, then you forget about everything else. No? You forget your petty material attachments. You know, it becomes very irrelevant because you feel so much love, so much attraction to your Ishtadev, to your favorite deity. And of course from this we can understand, and also the text says here, yes, we should worship the deity, we should worship the lotus feet of the deity. With what? With love and faith, full faith. So of course these 2 items are very important. And sometimes we worship the deities without full faith and without love, right? That happens sometimes. No, we just do it as a routine service. But in order to really get the full benefit, it should be done with Shraddha and with Priti. And also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Shastra we find many examples. Can you think of any examples of devotees who worshipped their Ishtadev in the form of a murti with love and devotion and had some, personal interaction with the Lord by that worship? Yes, Sanatana Goswami, which is quite amazing. Sanatana Goswami, who was just begging door to door, and then he happened to see in a house of a Brahmana, he happened to see some children playing with the deities, and Sanatana Goswami kind of chastised the Brahmana. No, it's not proper. That the deity is just used as a toy. And of course, sometimes families, they have separate deities. They have deities for the children. But Sanatana Goswami was kind of. And then both had in the night. Both had a dream. The Brahman had a dream, and Sanatana Goswami also had a dream. Basically, Madan Mohan appeared and told to the Brahmana that he wants to go to Sanatana. And when the Sanatana came again, Sanatana wanted to apologize, but then the Brahmana gave Sanatana the murti. And Sanatana Goswami was a little hesitant first because I'm just a sadhu living underneath a tree every night, a different tree. I'm not a householder which has a nice altar. I can give opulent worship. And so he said, I can worship you, but you have to accept whatever I give you. And Sanatana Goswami was just getting some flour and then just making some dough and then just throwing some dough into the ashes and then just having some rotis. and then Madan Mohan was just put in a little bag and then hang on the branches of a tree, and that's it. And then giving some dry rotis. And then one day Madan Mohan was complaining, okay, I understand you can't give full Rajbhog meal. That's understandable for me, but at least a little salt you could offer me with this dry chapati, a little salt. Then Sanatana Goswami became angry, like, what are you saying? I told you, I'm not able to worship you in a different way. And then, of course, we know the story. Then, by the Lord's arrangement, one boat got stuck at the banks of the Yamuna. And it happened that boat was fully loaded with salt. And then the village, and then the captain of the boat was completely, in anxiety how to get again back on the river. And then the villager said, there is a powerful saintly person, you should ask his blessings. And then by the blessings of Sanatana, the boat was relieved, and then he got plenty of salt, and of course later on also he was able to build this temple for Madan Mohan. Yes, that's one example. Madhavendra Puri. Yes, Madhavendra Puri. Actually, Krishna himself appeared to him, brought him buttermilk and then told him that I'm on a needy earth, please help me. Yeah, very active interaction.
And the little boy Rasikananda, who was offering.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think the father had to go somewhere, and he told the boy, "So now I'm gone, but you should take care of the offering, and then you just do this and that." And the boy did. And because he was so simple-hearted, the Lord was so pleased with his simple attitude. The Lord actually came down from the altar and ate all the offering. And when the mother, or when they wanted to take the bhoga at the prasad, and nothing was there. And I think the father wanted to then, when he heard about it, then he kind of stood behind a pillar and observed the whole thing. Yeah, so these are all these, we find these stories, but are these just stories from some ancient books, or do we have some similar stories that took place recently? Srila Prabhupada. Yes, I mean, of course, Srila Prabhupada had many relationships with different murtis, like London Ishwar, that's a famous one. This is such an amazing story. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Shishigo Nitai Ki Jai. Yes, I was also reflecting that all these murtis that were installed personally by Srila Prabhupada, so powerful, that Prabhupada actually called the Lord to appear in these forms. Certainly, Krishna is very much present in these murtis because they were called by a pure devotee. Yes, and in Mayapur we have all these stories from Lord Jagannath in Rajpur, which is an incredible story, and also the stories of Lord Nrsingadev, which are very, it's very alive. And of course, every temple has their own stories, and I'm sure some of our pujaris also have some experiences. And actually, there is a resolution and recommendation by the deity worship ministry that every temple should write a book or have a journal with writing down the history of the deities. How did the deities come? How did the deities were installed? And then all the different backgrounds of the deities. And then also the pastimes, whenever pujaris have some experience. When a pujari has a dream. I know there is we had one Guru Kuli, one Madhuchi, she was born in Krishna consciousness, and then very young she became a second initiated. She did service for many years on the altar. And she had regularly dreams of Lady Subhadra and this and that. So this is happening, But it would be nice to actually write it down, put it in one book. So yeah, there's some endeavor to do this. We will start to do it after so many years. It's time to do it. So one story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is also the story of Shakshi Gopal. Right? We remember the story. There's two brahmanas, younger and older brahmana, and the younger serves the older very nicely. And at the end of the pilgrimage Tirtha Yatra in Vrindavan, the older is so grateful. He says, I want to, express my appreciation, and I promise you that you should, marry my daughter. I think you're a fitting husband. And he was hesitant because he knew that he's from he was a brahmana, but from a lower kind of brahmana, and the elder was very exalted, and he knew that the family members will not like the idea. And then they agreed, okay, let's go in front of Gopal in a temple and then make a promise. And we know the story how they come back, and then after some time the young brahman is asking, and the older brahman realizes that he did a mistake because the family members don't like the idea. So he says, don't remember. And actually I think the brother of that lady, he chastised the young brahmana. You're just like a dwarf who tries to catch the moon, what do you think to marry my sister? And the wife even goes further. She says, tells the husband, if you marry our daughter to this low-class brahmana, I will take poison, end my life. So he was really in trouble. And then the young brahmana went to the village council, and they said, well, do you have any Shakshi, any witness? And he said, yes, Gopal was a witness. Yeah, then you bring Gopal here. So he went to Vrindavan and he asked Gopal. And Gopal says, my dear Brahmana, go back to your house, and I call a meeting of all the men, and in that meeting, just try to remember me, I shall certainly appear there. So Gopal says, you go back, and then I will just appear, I will manifest. And then the Brahmana says, E murti giya yadi, e sri vandane, shakshi deha yadi tabe, sarva loka sune. Only if you go there in this form of Gopal and speak the words from your beautiful face will your testimony be heard by all the people. You have to come personally. No? Because I said there is one person, Gopal, he will come. Not just some mystical vision or something. A person should come. A person should be the witness. Then the Lord said, Krishna kahe pratima chale kotana nusuni viprabhale pratima hana kahe kenavani. Lord Krishna said, I've never heard of a deity walking from one place to another. The Brahmana replied, that's true, but how is it that you're speaking to me, although you're a deity? So Kadama Kanamarash would say, if you talk, you can also walk. So you're saying you can't walk, but you speak to me. So what's the problem? And then he says, Pratima nahatumi shakshat vrajendrananda vipralaki kartumi akarya karana. My dear Lord, you are not a statue. You are directly the son of Maharaj Nanda. No, Shakshat Vrajendra Nanda. Directly the son of Nanda. Now, for the sake of the old Brahmana, you can do something you have never done before. And of course then Gopal says, okay. And then Gopal comes. With the condition that the Brahmana should not see how he walks, and he takes this ankle bells. And of course the temple is still there, Shakshigopal temple, you can visit in Orissa. But the point here is that that young Brahmana, he was very simple and he had full faith. He said, Shakshat Rajendrananda, you are directly Krishna, you're not different. There is no difference between you, Murti, you are that Krishna. And that kind of faith we need to develop when we worship the deity, that we understand actually Krishna is really there. Krishna is really manifested. It's not just a symbol that should remind us of Krishna, but Krishna actually is there. And then we should worship the Lord with as much priti, with as much love we can, pour out of our hearts. That's the idea. Oh my God, time is almost up. We only spoke about one. There is also, one should taste the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of pure devotees, and one should associate with a devotee who are more advanced than oneself and who are endowed with a similar type of affection for the Lord. So, one should taste Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of pure devotees, and Prabhupada emphasizing the purport mainly that one should not listen from professional reciters of the Bhagavatam. Of course, here in the West, we don't have so many professional reciters of the Bhagavatam, right? It's not that that we have many people who earn money by reciting Bhagavatam. So sometimes we wonder, the only people that I know who recite Bhagavatam are devotees, no ISKCON devotees, no. But of course, if you're in India, there's many professional Bhagavatam reciters. I remember once I was in Varanasi for some time, and there was a big Pandal discussion, and ISKCON devotees, they had a book stall, so we just had a table there and sold our books. But the program was a professional Bhagavatam reciter program. It was thousands of people, and there was this huge stage, and there was a huge music band, and there was some Baba with beard and long hair, and he showed all kind of ecstasies, and then he spoke a little bit, and there was again a lot of music playing, ding 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 ding, and then he spoke. It was a big show, really it was a show, and so afterwards he walked down in a big car, and you could see he was quite opulently dressed also. So that's what we can imagine of someone who is actually becomes very famous for his katha, but in his consciousness he's very much in an external, material lifestyle. And Prabhupada says here one should not listen from such a person, but one should listen from a spiritual master, from one who is in the line of the Guru Parampara, from a pure devotee of the Lord. Because hearing, one has to understand Srimad Bhagavatam through the process of devotional service by hearing the recitation of a pure devotee. So that's the idea, one should listen from a pure devotee. Because only pure devotee can actually transmit the true meaning of the Bhagavatam through the listener. Others cannot. Yeah, time is up. And what is also interesting that it's mentioned here that and one should associate with devotees who are more advanced than oneself and who are endowed with a similar type of affection for the Lord. And I think that's quite interesting. And I've heard also the similar description with a third condition. So one who is more advanced, one in a similar mood, and one who is also showing affection towards you. One who is affectionate. And if these three criteria are there, then we speak actually of Sadhu Sangha. No, we talk a lot about the importance of Sadhu Sangha. But in order that Sadhu Sangha actually can function, or that Sadhu Sangha is very powerful. It is described in the scripture that that Sadhu Sangha is extremely powerful, and no, we know this Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Kaya Lava Mata Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hoya, that even a short moment of association can bring Sarva Siddhi Hoya, can bring all perfection. If you have Sadhu Sangha, the association of sadhus, it can bring all perfection. And also one should be very, very eager to get this Sadhu Sangha. In the Narada Bhakti Sutra, it's also described that one Mahat Sangastu Durlabhya Ghayama Mogascha. The association of great souls is rarely obtained, difficult to understand, and infallible. So it's rarely obtained. It's not so easy to get Sadhu Sangha, to get real Sadhu Sangha, to get the association of really a pure devotee, one who has that potency to actually touch your heart and awake that bhakti in your own heart. It's very rare to get such Sadhu Sangha. Also, it's difficult to understand. Sometimes it's difficult to understand sadhu, to see sadhu, who actually is a sadhu, and sometimes sadhus, how they behave. It's not easy to understand, but it's infallible. It means if you have association with a sadhu, it will have an effect, whether you want or not, whether you can see it, understand it, but it will have an effect. It's infallible. If you associate with a devotee, something will happen. But then, what does association mean? Association mean that you're actually listening from that sadhu. That's one form of association. That Shabda Brahman actually enters your ear and touches your heart. Then we can say of Sadhu Sangha. And if you have this loving exchange with the person, if you reveal your heart in confidence and inquire, question, receive instruction, then that's Sadhu Sangha. But as we mentioned here, it's also says that the person should be more advanced and should be endowed with a similar type of affection, and also should be kind towards you. Now, of course, here it says should have a similar type of affection. The words here is used is sa jatiya, similar, ashaye, endowed with a desire. So they should have a similar desire. And of course, on the ultimate platform, it means someone in the same rasa, right? Because we spoke about sadhana bhakti. When we then, sadhana bhakti is of two types. There is Vaidhi bhakti and there is Raganuga bhakti. And when we enter the higher stages of sadhana bhakti, when we start to practice spontaneous devotional service, then Raganuga bhakti means that we start to follow a Ragatmika bhakta, right? Ragatmika, these are the eternal associates of the Lord. And Raganuga bhakti means to follow one particular devotee and then trying to absorb the mood, trying to understand in what kind of rasa, what kind of mood they are serving the Lord. So, and then also in this world, when we associate with senior devotees or advanced devotee sadhus, then we should associate with someone who has the same rasa, the same mood, following the same Ragatmika devotee. That's the meaning on a higher level. But for us, of course, it also means that we associate with devotees which have a similar mood, where we feel comfortable. There's so many sadhus in our society, and then with some gurus and sanyasis, we kind of immediately we feel that connection, and with some we don't feel so much. So we should try to get the association of devotees that we can connect, we can understand, and which are more advanced and affectionate towards us. And then if we do so, if we listen from such devotees, then we will be able to taste Srimad Bhagavatam much more. And doing that, worshipping the deities with faith and devotion, associating with such devotees and hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhava can be manifested in our hearts very easily, actually. Okay, Hare Krishna, Grantara Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Are there any comments or questions before we end? Yes, please.
Thank you very much for such a nice lecture. For a long time I have one question, maybe it's a stupid question, I don't know. When there is a description of 5 the most powerful method of Bhakti Yoga, only for Sri Murti there are additional description. Shraddha, Vishetanah, Pritihi. But for other 4 methods there are not additional descriptions. And why is so?
Are not? There are. I mean, it says one should taste the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam. I mean, one should. Yeah, Ashvada means enjoying the taste. It doesn't say you should listen. You should just listen Bhagavatam, but it says you should relish. So there is some indication. And then with the association, as we just discussed, it says you should associate with devotees, but it's described what kind of devotees you should associate with. Those who are more advanced, those who are similar mood. So we could say that these are some description, no? Like you should worship the deity, but you should worship with faith and with affection. You would like to have more description, right? But some are there. Yes, I mean, chanting and Vrindavan, there is not much said yet. One should congregationally chant, and one should recite in Vrindavan. There is no more description, yeah, that's true. Someone else wants to answer the question or has some? Okay.
I was just reflecting on this point of how we have to have a very goal-oriented approach in the practice of bhakti. Like just knowing that, okay, we want to go back to Godhead is not enough, but also in which way, in which service.
At a certain point of our practice, we should know, we should start to inquiring about that. Yeah, like in the beginning stages, as we mentioned, going back to Godhead is good enough. And then when we advance further, at some point we should start to inquire and then go deeper.
I was just wondering how this comes, in the sense that especially in our specific tradition of the ISKCON movement, it's quite in a way a taboo that you don't already start meditating on this. So, but at the same time we have to be very conscious to steadily make advancement. So at what point should we really endeavor, or is like there is a revelation, but how do you know that this is authentic?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think it's important for, I mean, and I guess that's the responsibility of the leaders of the society, the sadhus, gurus, those who give lectures and guide and teach to others, that repeatedly the goal should be, we should talk about the sadhya. And personally sometimes I miss this a little bit, the goal. We should talk about the goal. Like in many classes we hear, and it's very important to hear Krishna Lila. But nobody speaks Krishna Lila. I mean, I also don't speak so much, but no, like it's kind of, you know, we speak about the importance of hearing Krishna Katha, but then when do we listen to Krishna Katha actually? And I appreciate it so much. You know, these days we had His Holiness Bhakti Vigyan Goswami with us. I appreciate it so much. You know, 3 days, like like 6 hours basically, we spent hearing Krishna Katha directly from the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, Katha directly about Krishna. It's important, we need to hear. Because by hearing these Katha, especially from such a personality like Maharaj, that will do something with us. Our affection, our attachment towards Krishna will increase by hearing that Katha. And Prabhupada gave us the Krishna book for a reason in the very beginning, because Prabhupada knew, I don't know how long I will live. Maybe I'm not will make it to complete the Bhagavatam, and that was actually a reality. So Prabhupada gave the Krishna book in the very beginning. Why? So that we have Krishna's pastimes. So it is important to hear about Krishna, about the goal, and it's something which needs to be more emphasized. And of course the goal is to love Krishna, prem, to develop that love for Krishna, or bhava, which is the goal of sadhana bhakti, and that should be emphasized again and again, that we should try to go in this direction. So that's one side. And the other side is from the practitioners, from our side, we should develop that desire. We should, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj made this famous statement that I have opened a crying school here in Bhubaneswar. Here we learn how to cry for Krishna, because that's what is required. We should cry for Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Because and Maharaj often made the point: those who have cried for Krishna, they got Krishna. Like Bilva Mangala Thakur, he was, after he realized his attachment, after he left Chintamani, after he went, after he took, pierced out his eyes, he was really crying for Krishna. And then Krishna came and took him at his hand and brought him personally to Vrindavan. So those who cry for Krishna, they get Krishna. But the problem is we don't cry, and that's why we don't get Krishna. It's actually simple as that, But it's not so easy to just cry for Krishna, If you don't feel it, then. But then we should cry that we cannot cry for Krishna. We should desire it, we develop the desire. And that's something we need to hear again and again. And then, in our personal meditation, when we chant the holy name, and when we read and study scriptures, we should try to cultivate that desire. And as I said in the beginning, it's maybe more general. We understand Krishna there is this vacuum, there is this emptiness in our heart, and only Krishna can fill it, and we understand this, and we try to be with Krishna. But your question is, at what point can we become more specific? According to Prabhupada's teaching, it's that we should absorb in the holy name, and the holy name will reveal. Of course, that sounds, and it is very high, that while chanting Krishna's qualities, Krishna's form will reveal, and ultimately Krishna's pastime, and we get some idea of maybe in which form we will serve Krishna. And if we get some idea, then we should check with our spiritual master. We should take the guidance of the spiritual master and ask. And he will understand whether we are eligible to go more deeper into it or not. And in general, we understand that yes, although the desire, the eagerness, the lauliam is actually the price to pay, or like it's if you have a strong desire, then you're eligible for Raganuga Bhakti. But Prabhupada took a bit more cautious approach and spoke about Nishta, after the platform of Nishta. When we are fixed and most of the anarthas are removed. So, at least speaking for myself, there's still a long way to go. But it's good to start to hear more about Krishna and develop that desire that we can do. Okay, Guru Seva, because it's you. Otherwise, then we'll do the last one.
Example, my husband, before he left the body, Man Maharaj asked him, what are your favorite pastime? Then he said, with the cowherd boys. So anyway, then we had a whole night Krishna Katha, and more it came clear actually who is in the spiritual world.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe it happens just before you leave the body. I mean, I know my husband, he was not now so much into it. I want to know. I think if we perform our duties, and it will manifest itself. And personally also, I feel it comes when, you know, we don't have to. The desire is okay, but yeah, because this example I saw, it came when you came closer to that.
Thank you. Yeah,
manifest.
There's many examples of that actually. We have seen many Vaishnavis who in their later stages in their life they had these kind of revelations. Yeah, there's many examples. That's true. I guess it's a bit also individual for some, but certainly it should not be. One should not artificially try to enter in too early.
Take the time for preaching, sharing Krishna consciousness. Then you feel also not empty, or, sorry that I say this now, but you feel not empty, and it's always so much life if you give the knowledge to others.
Of course, I spoke about Vipralampa in the sense of emptiness, hankering for Krishna. Yeah, I guess there is different moods. But yeah, I think, I mean, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj spoke about this topic also often very strongly in the sense of, because it's interesting, there is the eternal, like these personalities like Rupa Manjari, you know, there is the Siddha Deha and there is the Sadhaka Deha. The Siddha Deha, like the Deha means the body or the form of the perfected being, which is Rupa Manjari. She's Rupa Manjari in the spiritual world, Siddha Deha. But then the Sadhaka Deha, when the Rupa Manjari comes into the material world, plays the role of Rupa Goswami, then that's the Sadhaka Deha. And Bhakti Charu Maharaj's point was that yes, we should follow in the footsteps of the Ragatmika Bhaktas, we should follow in the footsteps of these devotees like Rupa Manjari. But if we follow in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami, the Sadhaka Deha, and actually preach and are engaged in the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then that will awake the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then by Gauranga's mercy, actually everything will be revealed. So that would be a bit in the line that you're approaching, that as devotees in ISKCON we focus on Mahaprabhu's mission, on preaching also, and then by that sacrifice of preaching, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy will be awakened. Still, I would add to this, sometimes Prabhupada speaks about automatically, it will automatically manifest. And I spoke with His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj about this point. And Maharaj said automatically does not mean unconscious. Krishna consciousness is a very conscious process. So yes, these higher stages of devotion will automatically develop, but it's not that it's just happening, but it's a conscious process that we are also internally engaged in. Okay, so let's end here. Grantara Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Tagore Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Gorba ki jai, Manchukam Chak, Prasinna Jampatitanam. Not sure that I can answer.
The question is about, we have here some lectures by Anandavattana.
Yes.
He emphasized that in the school now we can teach only Madhurya rasa, yes? All our spiritual master, our Gayatri, all is emphasized to Madhurya.
Yes.
Madhurya, not Sakya rasa, not Vatsalya rasa. He emphasized it
Very, very strong, yes.
strongly, yes. But my husband and me have a question. All of the devotees who are now in school all have Svarupa of Madhurya. This question arises. Oh, maybe Chaitanya can change Svarupa. This question often arises. It's very strange before. Also, another Maharaj emphasized that in previous days, for example, Hridoya Chaitanya was very strongly in Sakya rasa. And there are, in those times, there are a lot of devotees in different rasas, but now it's only pointed to Madhurya rasa. This is the question. I tried. I always have 10 questions, but Maharaj had time only for 1, 2, and I never can ask what all what I want to ask. I would do another person.
Maybe we should arrange some private question and answer session with Maharaj.
Where? It's because
a little smaller circle of other books, just asking these questions. Because, yeah, Maharaj is a person who has very deep knowledge.
yes.
My knowledge is very good. I just see people that are here. It's very good knowledge.
Me too. And this question I asked in Dnieper, and some devotee said that yes, Lord Chaitanya can change our Svarupa, but I don't know, is it right answer or not? I was
We have devotees who are preferring more Vishnu.
yes.
Some devotees prefer Lord Ram. I know devotees in this congregation.
And in Sakya rasa, Vishwamba Madhava Maharaj, he was in Sakya rasa. Also, Ayendra, I think, I don't know, but I heard that he also was in Sakya rasa.
Yeah, he had a vision of the Gopas, a vision of Balaram.
But really, we have Gayatri and to Madhurya rasa, not all Gayatri. And it's very interesting. Maybe in Madhurya.
Yeah, interesting topic. Only a few people can talk about.
Right.